Welcome to Deep Thought, Biology and Culture, Ethnogenesis. Now, what is ethnogenesis? I had talked about ethnogenesis before. It's basically the process in which a group, either through self-identification or outside identification, comes to be recognized as a distinct ethnic group. And if you were to look up ethnic groups, there's thousands in the world. There's thousands of ethnic groups. Some are large, some are small, but they are recognized as distinct. And if someone were to look at their biology, there are some biological markers with each of the groups. They're small, and it would take professionals to really talk about them, but you could see them. Or even sometimes you can see them publicly. You can see, how they're built and everything, and body composition, everything. Like in Africa, there's a big difference between an East African physically and a West African. And it's definitely, West Africans tend to be thicker, more muscled, thicker, and while East Africans tend to be slimmer and stuff. Even down to the sporting events. Right, like West Africans tend to dominate in the Olympics in speed events, like short bursts, while East Africans tend to dominate in long distance events. Indeed, you have some other groups across the world, they can breathe in certain environments better than the average person, or take the sun or lack of sun better than maybe other groups. It's deep. Right? Now say something, I said, let me give a hypothetical. What if Rom, in his goal of global domination, said, okay, I want to create a super ethnic group. So how would I do that? All right, well, people have a problem with, changing the genes or anything, but I wouldn't even have to do that. First, I would start with just some generally healthy people. Generally healthy. Nobody's going to be perfect, and they don't even have to look alike, anything. Generally healthy. Indeed, they could be part of, let's make it fun. It could be a group of people, and there's all mixed ethnic groups and races in there, right? Now, first of all, you would create a third, I'd say maybe 7 generations. You could create a new biology just from mixing all these people together. Indeed, you have ethnic groups in the world which are a mix of different groups. For example, Louisiana Creoles. They tend to be a mix of several groups, particularly, black, white, Native American. And then also in the United States, you have a group called Melungeons. And their DNA has been traced back to West African men and Northern European women. All right? So, but that's just the biology. But I want to not just have the people there, right? So I got all these people, and I said, okay, what we going to emphasize? What's the culture going to be like? All right. In this culture, we're going to emphasize 2 things. One, health, and working to be the best physical self that they can be. Want them to be optimal. So, so because of that, on that physical side, what's happening with the culture? So you develop a whole food culture with the type of foods that are going to keep you healthy, right? A whole food culture. So you got to eat certain foods that don't hurt you, right? Avoid foods that can harm you, or avoid like substances like, cigarettes, drugs, intoxicants, anything like that. So that would actually create something, because then when the people would start mating, the children will come out healthier. Because people don't realize when people smoke or drink or something, that can potentially affect their children. Children come into the world with something. So, we deal with the health thing. So that creates a culture around eating certain foods, even festivals and everything. But also, since I say, okay, health, y'all know me, I'm Mr. Body Game, always hitting the gym, we would have a lot of exercises and stuff. That would be a big part of the culture, right? So that would start creating certain types of people. And, and especially with the children, like, okay, you have two people mate. They have the children, since exercise is a big thing. These kids are being introduced to this at a young age. And then whatever's in their DNA that resonates with exercise and staying in shape or something will have a better chance of being expressed. But that's just on the physical side, the health side. Also, you're introducing, like, maybe say, okay, this culture is going to be about intellectual development, learning, knowledge. So you creating that, and then people mating because of that. So they're not just mating because they're physically attractive, but they mating someone because they're smart. They mating somebody because of their intelligence, because there's such a focus on increasing your intellect. And also, too, the type of way that culture would express its beliefs in a higher power, a deity. And the rules that they'll follow. You have a lot of ethnic groups that were created because of how they worship God or whatever they considered God. So it was like, So basically you taking the biology, but then you adding something to it. Because people will mate and have children and even find attractive those who reflect the culture. So if you're in a culture that has a strong emphasis on physical fitness, who you going to want to mate with or find attractive? Someone who's physically fit. And then also the intellect, developing, high IQ or something. Who you going to mate with? Someone who reflects that. And then after several generations, because what happens? You take the first group. Say I take the first group, it's 1,200, right? 1,200, All right, you start having babies, and then you raise them in the culture, and then that culture is impacting their DNA. But then when those children mate, then you come out with kids they're going to be smart, they're going to be in shape, and then so on and so on. Now, the whole key to that is make sure the kids mate with each other. And you actually have that. Like, I talked about classes in the last episode. If anybody's familiar with the African-American more upper class, those Boule people, even though the Boule is technically not a class, but rather a fraternity. But people understand that black upper class. And I pointed this out to somebody, and they agreed with me. They actually have a certain look to them. But that's because they stay within their class when they mate. That's why you have a lot of groups that stay within their ethnic group to mate. They have a tendency to look alike, have the same general features and everything, all right? But then that's how they become a group. Now, it's something to think about. Now, I just threw that out there, I don't have any plans for global domination, at least ones I'm going to bother to share with people. But it's something to think about. Because we have to understand, and why I even did this series, biology is there, but the expression of it is going to be different. It's going to be dependent on, so many factors. What foods they're eating, where do they live, what nation they live in, how they choose to worship deity. All of those things play a part. All of those things impact biology. So, anyway, what y'all think about it? I got to throw some stuff out here for y'all to think about on this channel. All right? So, anyway, that's all I have for now. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.